hurricane, whatever the harm can be to us, lack of water, if we act in ways that minimize that harm or lessen that harm, then that's what morality means by a choice of our brain. It doesn't mean anything else. It's not resting on something. It's not. The compass doesn't tell you where you are. It just points. If one hand's in an oven and one's in a freezer, you don't need to measure. You just know. You know which way harm is in the world. So most atheists are humanists, and we use a basic principle of humanism, which is not utilitarianism or even negative utilitarianism. I don't think it's just try to act in ways that minimize harm in the world, and there's your compass, not a foundation. And I think in our daily lives we all kind of know it intuitively, because we evolved having to know that intuitively, and science has showed us that these reciprocal altruism and these things that have helped us to survive are sort of hardwired into most of us who fall in that healthy middle of the bell curve, not the psychopath, the sociopath, but most of us fall somewhere in there. We know what it means to be good. We basically know without having to be told.
Okay. I'm an anonymous student from UD, actually, who came up here to your talk. It was really good. Even though I'm sick, I still came up here. And anyway, yeah.
I can pray for you. Want me to
Yeah, I think it's flowing over now. Anyway. So yeah, it would be like me to bring up kind of nitty-gritty scientific issue in the midst of like a societal debate. But I remember you kept on talking about a part of your brain was talking to God. And when you said that, like the first thing I thought of was a book I've been reading recently called the Neuropsychological Bases of God Beliefs by Dr. Michael A. Kirschinger from Canada. And he's the one who did the famous God helmet experiment where people were subjected to, and the sign language interpreter is going to have a hard time with this maybe, transcranial magnetic stimulation of the brain in the temporal lobe, which caused people to have maybe not necessarily religious experiences, but feeling of like a presence, or sometimes, definitely even like religious type experiences. Have you heard about that, and would you consider submitting yourself to such a test? I mean, it's safe.
Yeah,
but
I know something is definitely happening in the brain. It really is.
Yeah, and to tie this back into the societal issue of religion, how do you think the, I guess, increased understanding of the underlying neural or psychological bases of religion could help our cause, or?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it would cause a shift. I mean, not everybody's going to flip to atheism, but the bell curve is going to shift a bit.
Yeah.
But the more we know and the more we, understand, the less need. If, as a previous questioner asked, God is a God of the gaps, and the gaps keep getting smaller, then what's happening to God? We no longer need a Thor and a Zeus to explain thunder and lightning, right? No. We understand something about electricity and the weather, and so that God is shriveled up and died. So maybe you're right. But that won't stop us from having those experiences.
Of course
We're
not.
still human beings. But what I do,
I have experience.
yeah, and in fact, it's kind of meditative. It's kind of interesting, but it doesn't point to anything outside the brain. But it happens to me a lot when I'm playing in a jazz combo. So if I can get into that mood, and if it's the right band, and if they're good musicians, and we're kind of not thinking too much, we can go into this kind of great, maybe athletes have a similar thing too in the brain, but this kind of mode of just like, it's something to live for. It's something, and it doesn't mean there's spooks and goblins and ghosts. It doesn't mean this parental figure that I feel actually is out there. But it's kind of interesting. It's kind of neat. As long as we can reframe it in natural terms, and not deny ourselves any of those feelings, then we novelators don't lack anything. We have the same. If you happen to be one of those people who falls over here, who is susceptible to those things, some of you probably wonder what the heck I'm talking about, right? You never had any of those feelings? Some of you have, right? Okay.
If any of you have experienced sleep paralysis, we were discussing this earlier at our own skeptic group meeting. That's when you wake up and you can't move. Sometimes you get feelings that could be associated with, I guess, paranormal type experiences. Sometimes you feel like there's somebody there, but there's really no one there. So, yeah, these things can happen in a number of contexts, not just like the religious. Some people are more susceptible than others, though.
But I used to believe that it was only we Christians who had the authentic feeling, and that the Hare Krishna and the Buddhists and the Muslims were just pretending, you know. But I don't think they are pretending. I think they're having those same experiences.
So, yeah, I won't hog the mic anymore. Next person.
Thanks.
Hi, it's an honor to speak. First of all, you mentioned the girl who died of diabetes, her parents convicted. Actually, just a small question. Her mother to a plea bargain comment from the plea bargain that the daughter is resurrected, they'll vacate her too.
Yeah. I think she's going to be. Yeah. But see, that is actually incriminating, because that means that they did intend that she was not going to live. Because if she's going to be resurrected, that means she had to die. So what kind of a parent would actually kill their kid with the hope of resurrecting them? We have laws against those kind of things.
I'm not good.
Now I know.
My actual question though was, I grew up in the South, so I've been on the other side of your bus talk quite a number of times. And just from that perspective, kind of listening to you speak now, what are your perspectives on, as you mentioned, the change, the loss of religion in this country and loss of religion in the world, the idea of atheists or even agnostics and evangelism from our point of view to the believer is what we always see is vice versa. I mean, do you support that or?
Yeah, we have bus signs and billboards and ads and yeah. It's not that we're not running into churches and dragging people out of their pews, right? We're not doing that. We're not threatening them with eternal torture if they disagree with us, right? But we are at the table. We have free speech too, and freedom of association, and we welcome their billboards, right? We might laugh at them, but we're not going to tear them down, right? And so we want our place at the table as well. And most of them aren't going to change their mind, but there's going to be a few that will sway, and then there will be a lot more people who think, hey, there's others who think like me. And if they join our groups and we work together to educate. So there are many values to doing this kind of public PR.
Do you think it's effective though to come from the standpoint you made kind of laughing at their billboards when it's something we do see actually in the ACS story. They're willing to engage and try and change our minds, and I see, from my point of view as an atheist, more people comfortable sitting back and laughing versus engaging and trying to change minds.
Well, we're all different, and I can't tell you what approach to take. I do know that if I'm laughing at them, I'm laughing at myself, because that was me, right? And most of us, when we laugh at them, it's not in their face. Although I do think there is a place for ridicule, as long as that's not all you're doing. Sometimes some ridicule for certain people who really deserve the door slam in the nose, really. For some people, ridicule might be effective, or nobody likes to be ridiculed. But if all you're doing is ridiculing, then you don't have much of an argument. But most atheists do have strong arguments, and the ridicule is just a natural human reaction to it. Who could be so stupid? I mean, that's just a part of it. In fact, they do the same thing. They ridicule just as well. So it's just human nature to say, how can people believe over in India and the blue elephant? Ha ha ha! And we all do that. It's just human nature. When it's something different from us, that we tend to it doesn't compute it. So we'll ridicule. To ridicule the belief is not to ridicule the person, though, which is different. You can be anti-religion without being anti-religionist, and actually show some understanding and openness and compassion to the actual person who has these crazy ideas, with the idea of complimenting them and saying, you're better than that. You can rise above that. You're smarter than that. You're kinder than Jesus, So come on and join us. They may not take it as a compliment, but our approach can be a positive approach.
Thank you.
Hello.